Today, let's look at the distinction between administrative law jurisdiction and constitutional law jurisdiction. These two legal realms, while being interconnected, serve distinct roles and responsibilities within the U.S. legal system. But how do these work within the broader legal framework of the United States? Administrative law jurisdiction involves legal principles pertaining to governmental agencies, while constitutional law jurisdiction is concerned with the rules and doctrines constituting the U.S. Constitution. These operate in unique ways, each serving a distinct purpose. For instance, administrative law jurisdiction primarily ensures the smooth operation of governmental departments, maintaining checks and balances as per the separation of powers doctrine. On the other hand, constitutional law jurisdiction safeguards the spirit of the Constitution, including vital constitutional provisions such as the Ninth and 10th Amendments that obscure the lines between federal and state powers. In essence, these legal jurisdictions, though different in their principles and governed by separate legislative doctrines, form the backbone of the U.S. legal system, each playing a vital role in maintaining the balance of powers, protecting individual rights, and ensuring the seamless operation of the U.S. governmental machinery. Dive into the world of administrative law jurisdiction first. Imagine a vast network of administrative agencies like the Department of Justice, the Federal Trade Commission, and the Securities and Exchange Commission. These agencies are responsible for implementing and enforcing specific laws and regulations. The focus here is on regulatory decisions and actions, often involving rulemaking, adjudication, and enforcement of regulations in sectors like healthcare, telecommunications, environmental protection, and consumer protection. And what gives these agencies room to breathe? Administrative discretion. It allows agencies a degree of flexibility in interpreting and applying regulations to specific cases. Now shift your attention to constitutional law jurisdiction. It's all about the interpretation and application of the U.S. Constitution and the fundamental principles it embodies. Here you'll encounter issues related to the separation of powers, federalism, individual rights, and the structure of government. It's a realm that encompasses landmark cases concerning civil liberties, equal protection, due process, federal-state relations, and the balance of powers between the branches of government. Its primary concern: the protection and enforcement of constitutional rights and the interpretation of constitutional provisions by the judiciary. So what happens when these two jurisdictions intersect? Well, they operate within distinct spheres of authority, each branch of government having specific roles and responsibilities. The legislative branch creates administrative agencies and delegates authority to them through statutes, while the executive branch oversees the administration and enforcement of regulations through these agencies. The judiciary resolves disputes arising from administrative actions, interpreting the law, including constitutional principles. The Ninth and 10th Amendments of the U.S. Constitution play significant roles in defining the relationship between federal and state jurisdiction. These amendments underline the concept of individual liberties and the principle of federalism. The Ninth Amendment acknowledges the existence of unenumerated rights of the people, bolstering the notion of individual liberties that go beyond those explicitly stated in the Constitution. The 10th Amendment upholds the federalism principle by reserving powers that are not delegated to the federal government, either to the states or the people. However, the commitment of veterans to uphold the Constitution, as expressed through their covenant oath, presents a contrasting viewpoint. This covenant oath emphasizes the veterans' dedication and duty to protect and defend the Constitution, but does not bestow specific jurisdiction over administrative law matters when mentioning domestic jurisdiction in the mention of the line, "against all enemies, foreign and domestic." This is in stark contradiction to the principles laid down in 9th and 10th Amendments and the separation of powers doctrine. The amendments distinctly outline jurisdiction, and the doctrine establishes a system of checks and balances amongst the three branches of the government. The lack of jurisdiction provided to veterans over administrative law matters, despite their constitutional commitment, creates a unique contradiction within the framework of these constitutional principles and laws. So, to sum it all up, Administrative law jurisdiction is concerned with the actions of administrative agencies and their interpretation and application of regulations, while constitutional law jurisdiction is focused on the interpretation and application of the U.S. Constitution and its principles. Each operates within its own sphere of authority, with the judiciary playing a crucial role in resolving disputes and interpreting the law, including constitutional principles. The 9th and 10th Amendments help define the relationship between these two jurisdictions, reinforcing the principles of individual liberties and federalism. Before we conclude this video, it's crucial to highlight an issue yet to be fully addressed by the United States Supreme Court: the potential overlap of judicial review and executive enforcement. This is particularly significant within the context of constitutional law jurisdiction and the doctrine of separation of powers. Traditionally, the judiciary is tasked with interpreting laws and resolving disputes, while the executive branch enforces the laws and court decisions. This division ensures checks and balances are in place, preventing any single branch from overpowering the others. Yet, within the framework of constitutional rights and principles of federalism outlined in the 9th and 10th Amendments, an argument exists suggesting that the people possess inherent rights and powers, possibly extending to enforcement authority over constitutional issues. This perspective holds that sovereignty ultimately resides with the people, who play a part in ensuring government actions, including those by the executive, adhere to constitutional norms. In practice, however, the judiciary reviews laws and settles disputes, including those on constitutional grounds, but does not directly enforce. It relies on the executive to implement court rulings, upholding constitutional rights and principles, in violation of the separation of powers of the executive and judiciary. This functional separation does not uphold the doctrine of separation of powers, which allows each branch to operate within its constitutional boundaries. Debates on the people's enforcement powers in constitutional law persist, but traditionally, enforcement is primarily an executive role, overseen by the judiciary, and, ultimately, the electorate's representatives. This approach, however, contradicts the doctrine of separation of powers, the 9th and 10th Amendments, and Article 6, Section 2 of the Constitution for the United States of America, 1789. This is a complex issue that continues to be debated in legal circles. Understanding it can give us deeper insights into the intersection of administrative and constitutional law jurisdictions and their roles in our society.